How's it going, everybody? I got Bill here filming for me today, so hopefully we can get some good camera angles. But here is the entire motor. We're going to start taking pieces off of it. I'd like to get this onto the engine stand, but in order to do that, I got to get the transmission off, and I also have to get the clutch and flywheel assembly off. That way I can bolt it up onto our engine stand. So yeah, I'm going to start with that, maybe take the distributor off and some other things, the intake, just the big pieces, and then I'll have somebody help me lift it. We'll muscle it on there because we had to get rid of the engine hoist because it was borrowed. But yeah, I'm going to get to work doing that. I'll show you a few clips of taking this thing apart. Alright, so I got my last nut coming out of the intake here. Now the whole system should just pop right off, and just keep in mind that you've got your water pipe here where your thermostat housing is, and you could take this off beforehand, but I guess I'm going to try to do it afterwards while I'm taking off the intake itself. A little bit tough. Alright, so I ended up taking out this other bolt here that was in our little housing here for the water pipe, just because I was trying to pull this off the O-ring, but then I realized the smart thing to do is not to even mess with the O-ring at all. So I'll just take this guy off like this, and there's our intake. Looks like our gasket still looks pretty decent, so we should be able to use that again. But yeah, so I'm gonna lay that down, and looking in on this side, it does look like we have a little bit of oil and stuff collecting on our gasket here. So I don't know, I'm going to take a flashlight and look in there and see if the stems look oily, and that could give us an indication of if our oil leak is coming from the top, or oil burning concern rather is coming from the top, or if it's actually coming from the rings. Gasket, man! I broke it, so it might as well just break the rest of it. I guess we'll have to get a new gasket. I don't know if you can reuse these anyway, but I was gonna try. You would have liked to. Yeah. So the order of things right now, our starter, and then we're gonna work on this T-bracket back here, and then after we get the T-bracket off, I would say we're probably just gonna go ahead and pull all the bolts out of the transmission, pull the transmission off, then we'll get the pressure plate unbolted, and then take the clutch off, flywheel off, and then we should be able to throw this thing up on a stand. Might need to take the head off to get it on the stand, but I'm not exactly sure yet, so I'll have to find out that detail. If we have to, we'll pull the head. It shouldn't take too long. Just gotta take the timing belt off, and then we'll be able to loosen the ARP head studs and yank the head off. So I'm gonna get to it here. So I forgot about the half shaft. We do have to take the half shaft out of the transmission. So that should just be these 3/14s here that I already loosened. All three the same, I think, yep. Now this guy will just pull out of the transmission, just like so. And there's the half shaft. So we're gonna have to get a different tool. So I already loosened all these 17s that hold the transmission onto the block, so I'm just going to finish backing them out with this guy. And you definitely want to keep in mind what bolts go where. I know that these are the starter bolts, but yeah, a lot of these transmission bolts, you can end up putting them in the wrong place and then they'll bottom out. Okay. So I'm just going to try to keep tabs on these guys here. These are the 2 top bolts. This one's in the front. And then back here the bolts go from the block into the transmission. So we've got about 2 of those back here. And the top one is longer than the bottom one here. This video will be a good guide for me too, to know which bolts go where, in case I forget. But yeah, let's see what other bolts we got here. I think that might be it. Yeah, I think that's about it. So now all we got to do is bust this case off, which sometimes can be a little tricky, but I've already had it apart, so might not actually take too much prying, but we'll have to see. So I got all the bolts out of the transmission, and I just grabbed this mallet here. I got it kind of propped up on a board. We're going to see how this goes, but me just tapping on the transmission like this. Looks like it's popping out of the dowel pins there, so I'm going to hit it from the other side. Looks like it's almost out. Should just be able to grab it and pull it out at this point. Hopefully I don't slip and kill myself. Hopefully the engine doesn't fall over too. Alright, nice. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned something about tearing down a motor that's already out of the car. I'll tell you, it's much easier when it's out of the car than it is when it's in the car. I tore this motor down when it was in the car a couple times and it wasn't fun, but this is pretty easy, you know. Transmission came off really easy because I've had it off before. If yours has never been off, you might have a tougher time. You may have to be hitting it a lot harder, but mine came off relatively easily. Yeah, we're gonna inspect the clutch and everything a little later, maybe in the next video. We'll take a look at the eBay clutch. We'll see how well $60 has held up for, I probably put 5,000 or 6,000 miles on it, you know, nothing crazy, but it's definitely seen some mileage, so we're gonna see how it held up. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, if you have any questions, definitely ask in the comments, but thanks for watching. Tune in for the next one.